So Chance the Rapper used to be one of the most hyped and respected artists just a few years ago. In fact, he faced little to no criticism for almost 7 years. He was universally loved and his 10-day and acid rap tapes were incredibly successful. I myself enjoyed the acid rap tape, even though I didn't listen to it at the time it came out. Instead 4 years later, and that shit was still fire. His 2016 project Coloring Book had almost the same impact. The majority of people could vibe to it, and it only solidified his reputation as hip-hop's golden boy. His humble, entertaining persona seemed genuine to most people. He always appeared friendly and nice. There wasn't really any reason to hate on the guy. Many fans even expected him to be able to go as far as, say, a Kanye West or a Kendrick Lamar. He wasn't backed by a label either. He and his manager accomplished everything and went through all the trouble that comes from creating and marketing songs and products alone, by themselves, which led a lot of people to respect Chance. It's safe to say he was on top of the game for a long time. He got major brand deals, his memorable free cap sold extremely well, and he had major appearances on shows, even winning a Grammy in 2017 for his tape Coloring Book. This success started to fade in 2019. In spring of that year he would announce the release of his debut album The Big Day. Now remember, this was his first official album. Every release before that was a mixtape. He also hadn't released a project in 3 years. So this got massively hyped up by the fans. However, when it released on July 26th, his good reputation collapsed. While there were tiny glimpses of hope, the vast majority of the album was just Chance talking about how much he loves his wife and his marriage and his wife. Just very one-sided, repetitive, and not that enjoyable. Like, it's cool that he's doing well and having a good marriage, but this guy is like in his mid-20s and married for only like a few months at this point. So he seemed pretty overconfident in his relationship. Anyways, his album was a commercial disaster. Bad critical reviews, quick fall off from the charts, low replay value, and this all resulted in the cancellation of his album tour. Even though at the time the official reasoning was that Chance wanted to spend more time with his family, but the guy tried a 2-for-1 sale in tickets in order to fill out the stadium. That just screams pure desperation because not enough people are buying tickets. So beyond this point, Chance the Rapper was kind of quiet, taking the L, not too much going on musically speaking in 2020, although he was featured on one track with over 100 million streams, that being PTSD by G Herbo. But I think it's safe to argue that Chance's part in the song wasn't the reason it got so popular. The song got its hype mostly through the Lil Uzi Vert and Juice WRLD sections on it. The only platform he was really active on was Twitter. But his attitude on the site only helped further ruin his reputation, as he proved to be unable to handle criticism and other opinions from different users, frequently making fun of or insulting other people just for disagreeing with him, or criticizing his music, which definitely didn't hold up with his friendly, nice guy Christian persona. Instead, Chance appeared to have built up a massive ego. He had some appearances on shows here and there, which mostly just solidified his failure on the big day. But the silence recently broke, as it was revealed that Chance and his team fired his longtime manager Pat Corcoran, who in return has sued Chance the Rapper, and I actually was able to find the lawsuit online. So we are just gonna go through the most important points and see what happened here. The iconic pair of Pat Corcoran and Chancellor Bennett, an artist-manager combo for over 8 years together, reimagined and forever changed musical artists' ability to control their careers. Electing to forego the operational and financial support of a major label and choosing instead to rely on their own hard work and self-sacrifice, Corcoran and Bennett upended traditional norms, broke barriers, and redefined the music industry. The combination of Bennett's indisputable musical talent and Corcoran's revolutionary management style led the duo to international and critical acclaim, including 3 Grammy Awards in 2017. Through Corcoran's calculated decision-making, including the money saved by foregoing a traditional music label relationship, Corcoran was able to maximize profits from multiple sources, including, but not limited to, sales and streaming revenue from master recordings, marketing opportunities, endorsements and branding deals, the sale of merchandise, and touring and other public appearances, which helped Bennett accomplish significant financial gain and international fame. Throughout this time, Bennett and Corcoran operated under a management agreement, where Corcoran earned a percentage of the net profits of the various operating entities established by Corcoran and Bennett relative to the CTR business. Following fan disappointment in Bennett's most recent album and underwhelming fan support for his associated tour, Bennett replaced Corcoran with Ken and Taylor Bennett, his father and brother, and has now refused to honor the terms of his agreement with Corcoran. As a consequence, PTM brings this action for all amounts due and owing and seeks all available remedies in law and in equity, including but not limited to compensatory damages and exemplary damages for breach of their agreement, related violations of the Illinois Sales Representative Act, and for its attorney's fees and costs incurred in bringing this action. So this is basically the whole backstory of this conflict and reasoning behind the lawsuit. Now keep in mind that this is being told by the manager and his lawyer. Chance's lawyer will probably try to paint a different picture, that Corcoran wasn't as integral to the success as he claims. Since we haven't heard Chance's side yet, don't take everything in this document as a fact. Moving on to the main part of the lawsuit, the manager goes over his relationship with Chance. I will be skipping some of the, in my opinion, irrelevant text, otherwise this video would be way too long. But I have the full document linked in the description if you wanna go through it yourself. In May 2012, Corcoran and Bennett agreed that through Corcoran's dedication to the management of Bennett's musical talent, the two could profit from the music industry independently, without pressure from a record label. They realized Bennett's potential and set out to transform Bennett's music into a global brand, ultimately achieved through Corcoran's carefully crafted strategies and overall management of Bennett's career and image. The artist-manager relationship they forged over the next several years allowed them to realize their goals and achieve unprecedented success and revolutionize the music industry in the process. Now the part of them going way back is actually completely true. This guy has been managing Chance for many years. I was able to retrieve a photograph of the two together 8 years ago, which you can now see on screen. So he definitely was there since the beginning and they built up their band together. But how big of a role did he actually play is gonna be crucial for this lawsuit to play out. In exchange for Corcoran services in early 2013, Bennett promised to pay 15% of the net profits that Bennett and later CTR received from all sources related to Bennett's music, including but not limited to a bunch of stuff you can now see on screen. From at least December 2013 to April 2020, PTM and CTR operated under the terms of their agreement, with CTR consistently remitting to PTM 15% of the net profits from all income sources as described above. CTR originally offered PTM 10% of its gross revenue, but PTM, wanting to ensure Bennett's financial success and avoid stunting his career trajectory, instead proposed and agreed to accept 15% of net profit after expenses. So his manager claims that Chance promised 15%, meaning these two had a verbal agreement about the payment, which in my eyes is probably one of the biggest flaws that can stop him from winning this lawsuit. A verbal agreement can hardly be confirmed if Chance's defendants argue against it. What likely happened here is that Chance and his manager had built such a strong and trusting relationship that they didn't actually get down to write any actual documented paperwork over this whole agreement, which now might come back to haunt the guy, as it's going to be very hard to justifiably prove any of this without any signed contracts. The document then spends a few paragraphs explaining Pat's role and all the effort he put into Chance's early career until the coloring book project, which again I won't get into because of time reasons, and then we get to the fallout. Having enjoyed repeated success with the release of his first 3 mixtapes, 10 Day, Acid Rap and Coloring Book, Bennett announced on February 11, 2019, without consulting with or giving advance notice to Corcoran, that he would release his first studio album in July of that year. Given the significant amount of work, care and attention needed to produce an album, Corcoran expressed serious concern with the projected release date Bennett had unilaterally announced for the album. Corcoran knew that in view of the commitments Bennett had in early 2019, including his own wedding, it was likely there was not enough time for the creative process that was involved in releasing an album, and Corcoran advised Bennett in that regard. Corcoran opposed announcing the release of any album before the recording or writing process even began, let alone was substantially completed. Compounding the issue, Bennett's recording efforts were compromised by unproductive and undisciplined studio sessions, procrastination and lackadaisical effort, perpetuated by various hangers on uninterested in the hard work of writing and recording, resulted in a freestyle-driven project of subpar quality, a complete deviation from the meticulous writing process that brought Bennett fame for his wordplay and wit. Bennett disregarded Corcoran's advice before and during the project, resulting in the forced release of a subpar project on July 26, 2019. While the album debuted at number 2 on US Billboard 200, it was panned by many influential critics and faded from the chart after just 19 weeks. The Big Day quickly became Bennett's least popular project to date, delivering a blow to the reputations of Bennett and Corcoran. This actually explains why the big day was big shit, and from my point of view, it sounds totally believable. Announcing an album 5 months before planning to release it without having put any actual work into the project is absolutely mental. Especially since he had his own marriage coming up, which takes up a lot of time, I suppose. The lack of time put into this album becomes especially evident if we compare it to how Pat describes creating his widely beloved coloring book tape. Since in paragraph 25 it claims Chance had spent multiple months on writing alone, which is definitely believable considering the care put into that project. So comparing that to the big day, which Pat claims to be freestyle driven and uncoordinated, really shows how much the quality of the product declined. But I definitely believe the manager when claiming this. If he really didn't tell his manager and disregarded his advice, the manager really can't be blamed. As with many album releases, Bennett and Corcoran initially anticipated touring in support of the new music. In that regard, Corcoran organized a 30-city global tour estimated to gross 25 to 35 million and began implementing advertising campaigns to build anticipation. Despite Corcoran's effort to arrange and market the tour, the underlying album failed to generate excitement comparable to prior releases. Based on low ticket sales and poor attendance projections, Corcoran recommended that Bennett take down the Big Day tour and use the time to regroup and refocus. Such a momentous recommendation was made only after Corcoran had assessed the situation, analyzed the available data, and consulted with other touring and brand management professionals. Although Bennett first postponed the tour just days before it was set to kick off in September, several months later it was shelved altogether, with Bennett promising his fans that he would come back much stronger and better in 2020. The tour was never put back on track. This essentially just confirms the belief most of us already held, that the tour was cancelled because his album flopped. Since there wasn't enough interest in the album, not enough people bought tickets and the tour had to be postponed, and afterwards cancelled altogether. Which is definitely sad to see considering Chance used to be able to fill out stadiums earlier in his career. Taylor Bennett's meddling was but one example of Bennett's relatives increasing efforts to manage the direction of Bennett's career, while Corcoran attempted to assess the fallout and analyze how Bennett's brand could recover from the disappointment surrounding the Big Day album. Ken and Taylor Bennett began pushing Bennett's career in a different direction, under a different philosophy, despite having little or no experience in the music industry. Instead of acknowledging the numerous distractions and artistic compromises that inevitably resulted from time wasted in the studio, all of which contributed to a lackluster album, evidenced by historically low ticket sales, Bennett ultimately blamed Corcoran for the judgment rendered by his fan base rather than accept that his own lack of dedication had doomed the project. With Bennett misdirecting the blame for the Big Day's poor performance, Ken and Taylor Bennett slowly eroded Bennett's confidence in Corcoran. From a purely operational standpoint, the Bennetts were inexperienced in the talent management space. Furthermore, they were seemingly more concerned with monetizing every available promotional opportunity for Bennett rather than shoring up and stabilizing the CTR brand for future success, both musically and financially. By contrast, Corcoran was encouraging Bennett to reduce public appearances and refocus his efforts on songwriting, productive studio time, attention to the business, and optimizing CTR's management and decision-making progress. In short, Corcoran and the Bennetts had widely divergent views on strategic management and future direction of CTR. Eventually, against Corcoran's strong recommendation that Bennett step away from the public and regroup, Ken and Taylor Bennett continued to press for and ultimately confirmed Bennett's appearance on television programs such as Ellen, Good Morning America, and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, which only forced Bennett to publicly address his album's shortcomings rather than generate excitement about the newly released album, which is what such appearances are calculated to do. These appearances served only to further exacerbate the failure of the Big Day. If the events stated here were actually true, then I find it insane that Chance the rapper would ever consider to follow the advice of his family. Instead of his long-term manager he has known for 8 years. His brother is a failed rapper himself, so how can he trust him? It's really hard to understand for me, but I guess when your family tries to give you some advice, you're often likely to follow it, because you don't want to harm the relationship between you. But it's still obvious that frequently promoting something that did horribly will only bring the project back to people's minds and will solidify their opinion that, hey, this is trash, why should I listen to it? However, I still think this to be very short-sighted from Chance, and also very scummy from his family members, to push him towards firing this guy. Plus Chance blaming his manager for the flop would be incredibly delusional, considering he allegedly didn't even tell him about announcing the release of the project. But this is still just a lawsuit and yet to be properly addressed by Chance and his team, other than offering a one-time $350,000 payment. So I won't take anything here as straight facts. But if it's true, then it definitely shows Chance's good guy persona falling apart. It then concludes with showing a list of all the commissions that are still open for payment. So this whole situation is becoming incredibly spicy and interesting. Now, do I think the manager will win this lawsuit? I'm not sure, just because of the lack of officially signed contracts. But we will see how this plays out in court, and you can share your opinion in the comments down below. Does the manager deserve the money, or does Chance not owe him anything? Comment down below and let's have a discussion about this.